Good day, everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day. So today we will be talking about approval process. Approval process is very important topic in Salesforce and as well as for your platform dev certification. Think about approval process something from a timesheet perspective, right? Everyone fills a timesheet. So let's say you work Monday to Friday, right? And end of Friday, you decide to submit your timesheet. So the timesheet often goes to your line manager, and the line manager looks at your timesheet, right? And if he or she is happy with the timesheet, then probably they're going to approve it, or they're going to reject it with saying, "Oh, look, these are the issues with your timesheet." So, right? So that's pretty much is the approval process concept is all about. So what we're going to do, we will going to do an approval process on a custom object, and you can do on a standard object as well. You can do an approval process when accounts get created, or and certain fields and opportunity get updated, or whatnot. You can do pretty much on everything. So what we're going to do, so we're going to focus on a custom object called Porter Beer. If you've been following this series of mine for Platform Dev, you might have seen I've created a Porter Beer in one of the series, right? So we're going to use the same Porter Beer custom object. So what we're going to do, let's say you're going to create a record in a custom object. If the amount hit greater than, say, $1,000, right, it will fire an approval process. It will, right? So then it goes to an approver, and if the approver likes it, it will approve it, or if the approver don't likes it, the approver will reject it, right? It's pretty straightforward. So we're gonna create an approval process here, right? And we might need a two custom field just to demonstrate what I'm going to do when I approve or when I reject, right? Okay, the first thing first, you got to log into your org, right? This is a developer org. You can use your sandbox, right? Please do not try that in your production org, okay? All right, so so what we're gonna do, we're gonna jump into the Porter Beer custom object. So the way to get into custom object is by going to Object Manager, right? So to get into Object Manager, you need to go to Setup, which you can go by going to this gear cog icon in the right top hand corner, and you can go to Setup, right? Okay, so let's look for this object called Beer, Porter. Okay, and let's create two fields. Let's say amount approved or amount rejected, right? Let's create these two fields. Okay, so let's go to new, and this is a checkbox, and go to next, and just say amount approved, right? And go next. Just try it. I'll make it read only. Go next and save. Right now we need another object called amount rejected. So we go to new, and we go to checkbox again, right? And next, and you say amount rejected. Okay, and next, and read only, next, and save. Right, so we have created two custom fields. One is the amount approved and amount rejected, right? So we will be seems like there's some kind of thing happened. That's what sorry if you hear that police cop siren. Yeah, okay, never mind. Sorry, I digress. So we have created these two custom fields, right? Amount approved or amount rejected, right? And so we're gonna use these two fields in our approval process, right? Okay, so let's jump into approval process. To go to the approval process, go to setup, and go to approval process, Guys, my apologies if you're hearing this cops or ambulance siren. I don't know what's going on. So usually, I live in a very small town in New Zealand, so we don't often get to hear these things often. But yeah, something like that. All right, okay. Sorry, digress. So we're gonna go to the approval process. So this is the process automation, right? Under process automation, you got approval process. So click here. So you can actually select standard or custom objects from here, right? So I'm going to choose the porter beer, and now I'm going to use this option, create new approval process. Use jumpstart visit, right? That's the best place. And like it's say amount approved, right? And you can choose the email template if you got one. You can go to template classic and create an email template, right? Otherwise, Salesforce will use the default template, right? So for now, we can ignore it, and let's move on. So we're gonna do this is. Please pay attention to this one. This one actually indicates that the approval process to get triggered when one of these conditions are met, right? So what we want, total amount, right, greater than let's say 1,000, right? And now automatically assign to approver. So I'm going to choose my approver. So I'm going to manually assign this to a specific user. You can do to you can choose other options if you like to, right? Or you can use standard or custom hierarchy field, right? So to make it simplified, I'm going to choose a user, and I got this user called the test user. The reason why I'm choosing a test user so that I can show to you what happens when I submit an approval from this user, when this user submit an approval, and when I log in as another user, what message I receive as a part of an approval process, right? So I wanted to demonstrate a full flow. Okay, all right. So I've selected this user test, and I'm going to save, and I'm going to say okay. Right, and view approval process detail page. So it will take you to this, right? And then we're gonna do show action here. Let's go here, and so we need to add approval actions. What happens when an approval kicks in, and what happens when a rejection kicks in, right? So our main intention, if you remember that we created two fields, right? One is the amount approved and amount rejected. So when approver approves it, so we will tick that checkbox, and when approver rejects it, we will tick that rejection checkbox, right? So field update, amount, we're just gonna name it, just simplify it. Amount approved, right? And we're gonna set it to true, right? And we're gonna set the other one as amount rejected. So go here, rejection, and we're gonna do field update, and we're gonna do amount rejected. Okay, and field amount rejected, we're gonna set it to true. Okay. All right, so we have set these two. That's all we wanted to do for now, right? And we will activate it. This is a very, very, very basic approval process. You can make it complicated. You can, you can expand it based on your business requirement. Sorry, I don't want to use the word complicated. It's based on your business requirement, right? So, you know what I mean. Okay, so that's done. Now let's go to one more thing. You need to go to your porter beer page layout, right? Page layout, and please make sure you have the submit for button dragged and dropped to this place, right? Otherwise, you won't see this option to submit for approval. Okay, so once that's done, let's dive into the porter beer. Okay, so I'm gonna create a porter beers, right? Okay, so I'm gonna create new, and let's say stout, sorry, not stout, Baltica, right? It's a Russian porter. You know, so amount is in New Zealand you get it for $4. And you can just do Maverick Pubs or whatever company for the sake of it. Quantity, so I'm gonna choose 1,000 of them, right? We won't be bothered with these two things, so I just wanted to demonstrate what happens. So save this, right? So as you can see, amount is $4,000, right? Now let's submit for approval. Okay, right, submitted. You can write the comment if you like, but it's up to you, right? Okay, so now I've submitted this record for approval. Let's log in as a test user to see what happens, right? Because if you remember in our approval process, the approver we have assigned as test user, right? So obviously when you approve it, it will go to test user to approve. So that's the one flow we're gonna test right now. So as usual, go to your setup. The way to go to setup, as you know, from the gecko icon, and go to users, right, and log into your test. If you remember, guys, I've mentioned to you how to activate this login. If you don't know, please check out my one of the videos I've covered. Right, so go to login, right? It will actually log you in as a test user. This is one of the cool features I like about this login option there. You don't need to ask a specific user for the username, right? Okay, cool. Now you see there is a notification here. So this is a minute ago. So you go here, right? So I got this thing to approve it, whatever, right? So okay, there's no comment, so I don't care. So I'm gonna approve it, right? So I approve it. So let's go back and go back to this record again, right? And there you go. The amount is approved, right? Now let's reject it, to test the other scenario. So what we're gonna do, we go to Porter Beer and go to new. Let's say I wanted to sell Harrington Porter, right? Porter amount is $6. Company gonna sell to Auckland Pub. Quantity 2,000 quantity, right? I'll save it. Okay, sorry. That's something. Okay, what we're gonna do, my mistake. Okay, log off as a test. And because I don't have sufficient rights on that user to create it, so okay, now I'm gonna log in as you might see this issue sometimes. So it's a right problem, access issue. I'm not gonna dwell into those for now. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go into Porter, and let's create it here. And let's say Harrington Porter. As I said, $6. We'll give it to, let's say, Frankfurt Pub. Quantity 1,000, right? And we're gonna do save, right? Okay, now let's submit for approval. And I'm gonna say please reject it, right? Okay, I'm gonna say please reject it. Right, and let's log in as test user. Right, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go to test user and gonna log in. You will get a notification here, right? I just have to wait. Okay, I got a few seconds ago. Okay, and I say please reject it. All right, okay, I'll reject it. You have asked me to reject it, right? Rejected it. All right, so now go back here and refresh it. There you are. It's rejected. See, it's pretty straightforward. So this is all about approval process I wanted to cover. As you can see how simple approval process is. It's all driven by your business requirement, right? You can do an expense, or you can do, timesheet, or you can do other stuff based on your how customized your org is, and right, you can do on your standard object as well, right? If, like, for instance, for the on a lead or for an opportunity, for instance, like if you're giving discount to some clients, and if the discount exceeds certain amount, it triggers an approval process. You can think about a business scenario and you can work on the approval process, right? This is using a point and click. That being said, you can also do using a code as well, right? So when it goes through an approval process, well, so normally what happens is that when a record get submitted for approval, right, it get locked, right? So if you wanted to do modification on that lock record, right, you need to, so using an Apex code, you need to unlock that first and do the modification and lock it back, right? And so you can actually modify things, because once it goes to approval process, you need to probably look at process instance, I presume. That's a table object where it actually stores information about the approval records, right? So I don't want to get into detail of that because I'm not covering to that level. But what I'm trying to say that you can actually trigger an approval process using a code. Because I've recently done some customization around that, so I have to actually drill into the approval record, which is an approval queue, and I have to do some modification. And so I have to write a test case where I have to trigger an approval code, right? So yeah, it works so very well. So as I mentioned, that approval process is a very important process, right? You need to understand this concept very well. And no matter you're a developer or admin or a consultant or a marketing person, it's good to know how the approval stuff works, right? Cool. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to cover today. If you liked my video, please subscribe. So next video will be more interesting. I'll be talking about database triggers, right? We will get our hands dirty with Apex code. I hope you're excited. So stay tuned and take care. Bye.